Hello everyone, welcome to this session on SAP UI5. By far in the last session, we have created our OData service in our gateway server. In today's class, we will see how to use SAP WebIDE Personal Edition, which is a trial edition available, to be able to create our first Fiori app using Fiori template end-to-end. So by far, what we have seen is the architecture of SAP Gateway Server. What are all the different components available? What will be available in SAP Fiori Frontend Server and SAP Fiori Backend Server? We have also created an OData service in SAP Gateway System, and that was through the service generation technique. Actually, we have seen both the techniques, writing the code manually into the service DPC class, as well as the service generation technique. So let me open quickly the OData service which we created in the gateway server and show you the response in the browser. So I am right now in the /iwfnd/main_service transaction. And from here, I search for my service, filter my service out of all the services available, and then click on call browser. I remember my decision and say allow. Since currently Chromium browser is set as a default browser for my application, for my system, it has opened the service response in the Chrome browser. This is my service documents. Right now, just for simplicity, we have only one entity set available in this. For this entity set, product set, we have implemented get details, create, update, and delete methods in our OData. Along with that, if I just quickly show you the metadata of the OData service, you would also observe that we have created two functions as part of function import in our SAP Gateway service. So we will see how to consume this OData in our Fiori application. And that is what we will be doing by connecting our SAP WebIDE system with SAP backend, SAP frontend server. So this is about your OData service. You can see here my service URL. It starts with the host name, which is ehp7prd.sap.in. And here we have the port number 8048 and then the service URL. This is my service URL, which I have it available. So I need to expose my gateway server to SAP WebIDE. So SAP WebIDE comes along with something called an Orion server. Orion server acts like a reverse proxy for the gateway server. If you remember in one of the session in past, I have explained you about cross-origin resource sharing issue. When you're running your application in a domain, browser will restrict you to talk to another domain directly. And that is why you have to use a reverse proxy or a proxy in the middle to be able to communicate to the server. So that's what exactly Orion server will do here. So what I have done in the last class also for you is I have gone to tools.hana.ondemand.com, and from here I have downloaded SAP WebIDE Personal Edition. So to develop SAP UI5 application alone, it is always good to start with SAP WebIDE. But suppose in your company, if you are working together with multiple development artifacts like SAP UI5, SAP ABAP programs, ABAP reports, along with that also if you're working with HANA data artifacts like HDDDB, HDD data definition artifact, or for example, working with triggers, procedures, views in HANA, then the better IDE would be Eclipse IDE, because Eclipse IDE comes with Eclipse IDE gives you a possibility to install multiple variety of tools. For example, ABAP development tools. With the help of that, you can connect to your ABAP on HANA system. And then you can model all your ABAP artifacts right from the Eclipse. The same will also help you to develop UI5 app once you set up the SAP UI5 and developer plugin into it. So Eclipse would be the preferred IDE if you're planning to work with multiple artifacts at the same time. But if your purpose is to work purely with SAP Fiori applications, SAP WebIDE is the preferred choice of IDE because this gives you more flexibility in terms of connecting to the backend system, and because it comes with a proxy, it also gives you features like connecting to SAP Cloud Platform. You can also deploy your Fiori app directly into SAP Cloud Platform from WebIDE. You can also deploy your app into SAP NetWeaver Gateway Server, which we saw in the past discussion. Also, there's a possibility to connect SAP WebIDE with Git repository. So typically we work in a team in a company and we have something called a Git repository set it up where all the multiple developers of same team work together with a single project. So we have a possibility to work with Git repository as well. Yeah. So now let's go ahead and look at here. So this is the SAP WebIDE Personal Edition, which I have already downloaded. 64-bit Windows operating system is what I have right now. So I've already downloaded this one. It's a trial version, but still it gives you capability to experience development of Fiori app. Okay. After downloading, I have created a folder called My WebIDE, and then I have just right click and clicked on Extract Here button. This would start extraction of my WebIDE folder into an Eclipse folder. So you can see the extraction is currently going on still. So once the extraction is over, we will be able to connect this SAP WebIDE to our gateway system. Now, in order to connect this WebIDE to our gateway system, we need to create a destination file. A destination file includes the details regarding the host and the port, yeah, so that we can communicate to our gateway system. Now, there are two prerequisites to be able to, or two things which you need to do in order to connect your SAP WebIDE Personal Edition with your gateway server. The first thing what you need to do is you need to make sure that ABAP system has catalog service activated. Second thing what you need to do is create a destination file which includes the purpose of connection as well, along with connection properties. So let's go ahead and check the first thing first. I go back to our gateway system, and once again, let me start from SAP menu. I will go to transaction /iwfnd/main_service. In this, if you see, we have the first two service which are catalog service. If I double click on the service, you can see here the ICF node and the service is active. You can also quickly test this service. Click on call browser and check if the service is giving you some response. Yes, it is. So that's first prerequisite for you to check in your gateway system. If this is not active, you will not be able to connect SAP WebIDE Personal Edition with your gateway server. So even though sometimes it is active, while connecting your WebIDE with gateway, it gives you an error that catalog service is not active. That is could be because of several reasons. I will try to do something in a way that we can produce that error. What kind of mistakes you would end up doing while you're connecting your SAP WebIDE Personal Edition with Gateway. I will try to reproduce such errors and show you what mistakes typically we do while connecting to our gateway. Okay. So this is the first thing you got to check. After this is done, we have to create a destination file. So for that, we have to refer the documentation provided by WebIDE Personal Edition. So you can see here is the link for documentation. Click on this. So from here, it directly takes you to the documentation for SAP WebIDE Personal Edition. Now under this, you will find a section called connecting remote system in SAP WebIDE Personal Edition. Click on this and you will see here a sample uh, file or sample configuration for the file which you are going to create for creating a connection to your gateway. It is possible to have multiple gateway connections. Suppose you have one gateway for your development, one gateway for your quality, and one for your probably production. And you want to connect your WebIDE with all three systems. Yeah. So you will be end up creating three different destination files. Okay. One destination file per system. And remember, this file should contain information about your Fiori front-end server or your SAP gateway server, not the information of your SAP backend server. Remember, that's a very important point. So now let me copy all these things to avoid any typos and just create a sample file. So first I'll start with a new notepad file. I paste everything over here. And now in this notepad file, I'll just start editing the information as it is as per my launchpad. As per my system configuration. So description of the system, you can give anything. Let's say my dev gateway. Second is type is HTTP. Yes. Trust all is true. No authentication. No authentication means whenever you talk to your gateway system, that time you will be thrown with a pop-up where you have to authenticate yourself. It doesn't mean that you will never be authenticated. It means browser browser form window authentication will be used while when you try to connect to your gateway. Then comes the system name. So let me just go ahead and open this SAP logon. So you see EHP is my system ID and system name. So I can say EHP. Same applies to the WebIDE system here, EHP, I will maintain. Then type is internet because I'm going to connect through HTTP protocol. So the proxy type is internet. And now let's take the URL from here for the server, EHP7PRD 8048. That's the URL for the server. So let me put that URL over here. Now, one common mistake which we typically do is some of the servers are secure shell servers, SSH protocol servers. So for that, HTTPS has to be used. But in your case here, it's a normal HTTP server. So I just used HTTP. So this is one mistake which we typically do. In some majority of the companies, they are secure shell HTTP servers. So for that, you have to use HTTPS, not HTTP. So that is one mistake which we typically do. Now moving on, the WebIDE uses. What is the purpose? Why we want to connect our WebIDE to the gateway system? So purpose could be I want to get my standard app in WebIDE. I want to deploy my custom apps in the WebIDE. I want to consume the OData service which is available in WebIDE. Yeah, these are all the different purpose. So you have to tell the purpose clearly. So come back to the documentation and below you will see different purpose available over here. What is the purpose you want to connect WebIDE to the gateway? So I will probably use OData underscore ABAP, comma, OData underscore generation functionality, OData general functionality related to OData UI5 execute ABAP. I want to still execute uh, my app from WebIDE, but it should run on ABAP platform, dev ABAP. So all these things I'm just mentioning here one by one. Yeah, majority of these things. Then comes to EHP. That's okay. WebID enabled is true. And let's put the client. So in my current system, the client is 800. So I'm done with definition of my destination. So this will be used to connect to your gateway system by SAP WebIDE. Okay. So this part is clear. Any questions over here? Anybody, please feel free to put it in the chat window or ask your questions by unmuting your line. So this configuration file is must if you want to define a connection to your gateway, whether it is quality gateway or it is development gateway. You have to do it accordingly. Okay, so let's see if the extraction is over. It's about to get over. So we'll just wait for some time till it gets over. Yeah, hi Chandra.
Because so when we create a project in SCGW,
Correct.
that time when we were doing the map to data, yesterday when we were trying to do map to data source to map all the properties, sometimes I feel like we don't get enough map to data source visible by right clicking on that
So then in that case,
entity
you
setup.
can manually go ahead and do an F4 and map the properties. Like I showed you for product ID, for get detail, there was no mapping for importing data for the BAPI. So we have done it manually by adding a new element and choosing F4 on both the sides and be able to map it, right? So I'll just quickly show you by the time it extracts the file in our service project. So let me just come down, ZO data, no ABAP. Here we have. So here you see this is what we have done by far. And if you don't see any mapping is generated automatically, you want to do this on your own, you just go for the change mode, just add a new line and select what is that you want to pick up from the OData entity type and what is that you want to map to the BAPI corresponding to that. Yeah. And this arrow gets defined automatically based on the BAPI import and export. Yeah. So that's how you can do that. Okay, let's come back again to our client transaction. So I also showed you yesterday creating a post request. So I request you to please mute your line, Chandra. Thank you. Um, so gateway client. So we saw the post request yesterday. For that, maybe just execute it. So this was the payload which we had used to create a post request to the gateway yesterday. So maybe now I will move on. I think the extraction is almost over 89%. And once this is over, we will be able to start our web IDE for the first time. Now remember, the destination file has to be kept ready, but you cannot put it until you start your web IDE for the first time. You got to wait until the destination folder is available in the folder. So what happens is when you start your WebID for the first time, the destination folder gets created. So you see right now in this configuration or there is no destination folder actually in any of these folders because it will get created automatically for the first time when you connect to WebIDE system. So immediately after extraction, do not expect a folder for you to place your destination. It will get created with a first connection to the web IDE. So that's what I will show you also. And I will also show you what kind of mistakes people usually do commonly and how to solve them, yeah, to connect. This is a very effective way to quickly get started with SAP Fiori development when it comes to your real-time Fiori development. And in fact, when you want to create a new project, it's always recommended that you start with a web IDE template. But remember, as I showed you yesterday, there is a difference probably between the version of SAP UI5 in the server and the version through which you generate your app. So yesterday I showed you how to check the version of SAP UI5 into the gateway server. So you can just quickly come back to SICF transaction, and here you can put the service path as service name as UI5 underscore UI5, execute, and here you see public PC UI5, right click and say test service, and you will get to know the version of SAP UI5 available in the gateway server. So if you try to develop an app using SAP Fiori WebIDE template uh, with version higher than this, the moment you deploy your app in the gateway, it will not work because it expects SAP UI5 version according to that. So you see the version which is maximum available in my server is 1.26.1. Okay, so this has been deprecated officially by WebIDE. now you will see minimum version which WebIDE supports is 1.28. So the app, I can of course build the app, I can connect the app with OData, I can test it locally in WebIDE, but when I deploy in SAP Gateway Server, it may not work because there is a limitation for the version. In my server, I am still running on quite old version. Okay, so that's just one quick catch, but still we will be able to do everything in local WebIDE, including the testing of our app in local WebIDE. So one recommendation is tell your basis guy to update the SAP UI5 version into the gateway server. That's very important. Okay, now we're done with extraction. Looks like, yes, all the folders are in place. So let me just quickly refresh. And now double click on this Orion.exe to get started with my SAP WebIDE. So I double click on this and you see it has started the Orion server. Now I can simply go here to my browser and type localhost 8080 WebIDE /index.html. This is the URL which I will be typing, localhost 8080 WebIDE /index.html. Press enter and you see it has started with a login screen for Orion server. I create a new account since I'm first time connecting with WebIDE. So I just name my account as Anubhav. Some password I will just decide. Sign up and you see it is now letting me inside this. So by that time I can see now there are new folders which are there in this directory, and one of the folder is config master, and then you see service.destinations and destination. So here is where you have to place your destination file to configure your gateway system, yeah, to talk to connect your WebIDE to your gateway system. This is what you need to do, yeah. So let's try to do that. Now remember one important point, the file which you're placing should not have any extension, which means it should not have .txt, .doc, anything. It is purely a file without any extensions. Okay, so I will first put it with extension and show you the error what I will encounter. So I now copy this path, come here and save my file into this folder, and I name this destination is my dev. Yeah, whatever you like, you can give name. So my dev, and now you come and see, you see my dev.txt. It has an extension .txt. Sometimes these extensions are not visible because of your Windows settings. So come to organize, folder and search options, view, and you will see hide extensions for known file types. If I do this, I don't see the extension actually. See, I don't see the extension, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have an extension. By looking at its logo as well as its type of the document, I can see it's clearly an extension. It's a file with extension. So remember, you got to go to folder options in your computer, which is whichever Windows or Mac you're using, and make sure that you display the extensions. And if I have this extension, what goes wrong? Let me show you that. So I have this extension now in place, and now let me try to connect my WebIDE. So I just quickly refresh since I just put that file in the system. I just refresh and now try to create a Fiori project connecting to that gateway. So I click on File, New, Project from Template, and there are multiple variety of templates available, you can see. So I would like to create a master detail application, and here you see SAP UI5 version. So based on the version you have in your server, you got to choose the right version. So you see 1.26 is deprecated, it's no more available, which means if I develop the app with any of these, it may not work when I deploy in my gateway, but still I can go ahead, develop and test it in my local web IDE until the version in the server gets upgraded. So I go with 1.28 and a master detail application, say next, and just name something, right now something, whatever I like, click on next. And now here you will see options to choose your gateway system. Click on the drop down and you see my dev gateway is now available. But the moment I choose this, I see EHP catalog service is unavailable. See the problem. Though your service catalog service is active, still it is not showing that. It is giving you an error that your catalog service is not active. What's the problem? Anybody? What do you think? What's the issue? So what could be the problem? Absolutely, Prabha has got it right. It's the extension issue. The destination file you have placed has a txt extension, and because of that, it's not working. So let me close this, go back to my destination folder, and just press F2 or just rename the file, remove the .txt, press enter, say yes, and now you see file type has changed to just a file, not a text document. Come back and refresh the page so that it connects to the latest destination. It's always also recommended to just restart your Orion server for simplicity, or if you just want to refresh and try, you can give it a try. So let's try one more time. File, new, project from template, and then 1.28 maybe I'll use, and or maybe I use 1.38. SAP master detail application, say next, just give a new project name, say my project product uh, app, say next, and now I can choose once again my destination, and you see still it is giving me an error because I probably have to restart my Orion server. So let me close WebIDE session and also close my Orion session, and then quickly come back and restart my Orion server. So it reads through the destination once again. And let's come now to localhost WebIDE index HTML. And just now, you remember, I have registered myself. So I have to use my username password to connect to WebIDE. And there you see it is now connecting me. Yes. Let me just say new project from template. Choose version, maybe 1.28, maybe I'm using. Master detail, next. Project name, product app, next. And I just select gateway. Oops, still there is something going wrong. You see, still it's not working. There is something with my destination which I'm doing wrong. So let me check. Is it probably HTTPS which is causing a problem? Let me try putting HTTPS and see. So I save this. After putting HTTPS, I saved it. You see again my dev.txt got created. I just remove the old one, and the new one of course has HTTPS now into it. Now let me try once again. Yes, remove the extension.txt. Let me close it. Close the WebIDE and restart my Orion server once again so that it reads through destinations one more time. And then let's come back to localhost WebIDE. So these are all the common mistakes which probably you will end up doing while you are connecting to your gateway from WebIDE. So just try to be a little careful. In order to avoid any typos, always come to the documentation. From here, you copy all these information or the properties for the file. Okay, let's come now one more time. Let's give it a try. Right click, new, project from template. Choose the library 1.28, master detail, next, my products, next, select. Oh, oops, seriously, there is a problem. Now, what shall I do? I will probably press F12 and see where is the issue. So in the F12, this is how you can really also troubleshoot the problems which you will face at all if in case any problem is coming related to your gateway or connection from WebIDE. So when you're creating the new project from the template, maybe let's use 1.28 again, and I use, and now watch carefully. So if there is any problem, you select this and say my dev gateway. You will see the error here in the console in the network tab. So you see it's trying to talk to the service collection, which is your gateway service, and it's unable to get that connection properly. Yeah, it's unable to talk to the service. But if you see the service here, you see SAP OPU, this thing. Yeah, so this is the service. Now I think the problem is with the name. See, it is trying to find name with EHP. In the destination, the file name should be EHP, same as the name of your server. But what is the file name I have kept? See, what is the file name I've kept? I kept my dev. But actually, we have given the name of the destination as EHP, the name of the WebID system as EHP. So the file name also has to be EHP, guys. That is also the next mistake which somebody can do. I change it to EHP now. Let me just see if it works directly here. No, I probably have to restart my Orion one more time, one last time. So let's do that. And first we'll check now this service call, if this service call is successful or not from WebIDE, which we got from network tab. So let me just quickly restart one more time my Orion server. And rather than doing all the things, I can quickly check if this service call is successful. So I come back, press enter. Still the service call is failing, which means there is something which we are missing still. EHP. Okay, was it the name? Let me quickly check. Okay, so again, maybe change back my destination to HTTP based destination. It's not HTTPS, it is HTTP. So I save the file after changing, and now try one more time. Press enter. Voila, there you go. The moment I change it to HTTP, so make sure that all the combination is correct. So these are all the potential cause of errors, what you do. Extension is one problem, the name of the file is another problem, and the HTTP and HTTPS could be another problem. So all of that, once it is done, you see it's finally giving a response for catalog service. You see the service name over here. It's a catalog service, which it is calling in the gateway version 2. Yeah, and finally it's giving you the response, which means now if I connect from WebIDE 2, it will give me the response, localhost WebIDE index HTML, and then just go ahead and connect to. So I just getting into this. So this is initial setup of SAP WebIDE Personal Edition with your gateway. Okay. Now I just comes a new project from template. This time I'm sure it will work. 28 maybe. Next, my products app. Next, select your system, and voila, you see it has loaded all the auditor services available in your gateway at the bottom. Yeah, I search for the service no ABAP, which we created. Here it is. I click on next. It read the service and it's got all the information for that service. Now here comes your project namespace, which is nothing but the name of the path of the root folder. If you remember, what we have learned in the last chapter was creating component.js and also assigning the path to all the files, right? So that's what exactly namespace is. Now suppose an example, you have your company and your company is managing different departments. Now there is a procurement department for HR. There's also another procurement department for procuring raw materials. So you are developing an app for procurement. Now, there is one procurement in HR which is procuring the equipments for employees like laptops and smartphones and something like that. And there's one procurement which is procuring raw material for the company. That's a business as usual. So both are procured. You are developing a procure app. Now, how do you differentiate that which app belongs to which area? That's what exactly the real purpose of namespace is. You can have your company name. Let's say I'm working for IBM, so IBM dot, and then I can say HR dot products. This is how you can give the name, and that becomes the path of your root folder as well. Remember, you all should know, SAP, your Fiori best practices, and also all the artifacts, including component.js, router, root match handler, manifest JSON, views, all the type of views, especially XML views, controller coding, fragments, formatters, utilities, I18N, different types of models, JSON model, XML model, resource model, and OData model, connecting OData model, chaining concept, paging concept, all these things, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, jQuery, DOM, custom controls, scaffolding templates, all of this, not even a single thing you should miss. All of this, I expect each one of you to know, because this is what we have covered by far in the complete course. Okay. If all these things you know, then you are eligible to do this. Do not come to Anubhav and say, Anubhav, I want to learn analytical app. I will first ask you, do you know all these things? Because that is prerequisite for this. And if you want to do copy paste like other trainers, like other people are doing in industry, go ahead. All up to you. I don't take any responsibility for that. All up to you. It's your own risk. You are doing something which you don't know what you're doing. Okay. Need to know all these artifacts which we have already covered in the entire course. Then only you will understand what the code is written, what the code is generated over here. Okay. Let's come to the title of the master section. So I say products, OData collection. Product set is what will be used to read the data. Search placeholder. Search your product. Search tooltip. Search product. Search field would be using the product ID. Now comes the item details. So master data section. What is that you want to display? I want to display the product description, product name, and product supplier, or maybe category. Yeah, that's what I want to display in the master section. In the details section, I will just show the detail view, product detail as the title. It will create everything for you from scratch. Okay, there's nothing in the detail as such. I click on next and say finish. We are done. Your first Fiori app with standard, all the standard which we have learned in our entire course is created automatically. So let me expand the folder structure. Now you will understand each artifact which I have created. So you see, router, index HTML, component.js, views, controllers, models, I18N, CSS. All these things you already know, guys, isn't it? If I would have started my first session with this, you would have kind of got lost. But now you know what thing does what. This is the structure with SAP 1.28 library. If you generate the project, same things with 1.32, you would find a different structure. You would see some more artifacts like model.js, fragments, formatters. You would see also the views and controller will be packaged in a different folders. So that's a big difference between the 1.28 and 32. There's a change in the folder structure of UI5 apps. So that's how you'll see, with new UI5 versions or templates which you use, you would see more and more enhancements and new folder structures coming up. Okay, so we are done now. We can simply just go ahead and execute this app. No, nothing needs to be done extra. And then if needed, you will just go ahead and start changing wherever required. So now it's asking me credentials for my server. It is connected successfully to the gateway. It's throwing me the pop-up to provide the credentials. and you would see all the products have been loaded on the left hand side. Yeah, all the products are loaded, and in product detail it's empty right now. There's nothing in the product details. Yeah, so we have to also change little bit of things. So you all know router, you all know manifest JSON, all know route, OData, all these things. So let's go ahead, and when I select something here on the full screen, it should not navigate on the master section. Point one, it should immediately display me the product details on the right hand side. That's what I want. So let's go ahead and achieve that in the existing product now. So I will just come to my WebIDE and see how the navigation is working. So that is what is done in the component.js. So you will see the router configuration over here, how system is navigating from one screen to another screen. So you see here we have a master view, which is level 1, and then we are also navigating to master 2. I don't want to navigate to master 2 view at all. I directly want to navigate to detail view on a selection. So whenever user select an item, I don't want to navigate to master view. I want to navigate to the detail view. So let me just go ahead and define the route for that. Yeah, I can just go ahead and do that. So let me change the pattern here. The second pattern I'm making it is detail view. Name of the pattern is detail. The view which I want to display is the detail view. The view level is 2. Aggregation is detail pages. I don't want subroutes here. I just want one simple route with master, and then one simple route here for detail. Yeah. So target control, of course, has to come here as well. So that's how I change my router. So hope you all know what am I doing here, because I have already taught you what is router. How does the router works? This is all been done already in the past chapters. So that's why when I change something here, you all should expect it to know all this. Pattern, name, view, view level, target aggregation, and target control. All of this is here. Okay, so now whenever I select an item in the master section, so that should be, the code should be there here. Somewhere when I select an item, it should then go ahead and fire the route. So it's calling show detail, and it's coming here, and you see it was earlier navigating to nav to master 2. I should not do that. I should go ahead and trigger the detail route only. So detail route will be triggered. Let's save this and test. So let's come and test it, refresh. I select an item, and you see directly the detail view is coming when I select an item now. It's not no more navigating in the master section, directly the detail view is coming. Yeah, that's the beauty. So now if I want to display the data in the detail view here on the object header of what I selected here, I of course have to do the element binding. So I come to the detail view now. This is our detail view, and you see we have an object header already in place without any properties into it. So we have to just bind now the information of the product with this object header. Okay, let's also look at quickly the detail controller. What is that being done on the route match handler? So whenever the route match handler is triggering, it's already doing a bind view with the path of the product. So I think the data for the product, selected product, will be already available in the view. So just have to do the element binding for the properties here. So I just put curly braces slash, I will put name of the product in the title. I would put slash price of the product. This is all the properties we have in our OData service for the product entity set. Currency code. And then maybe I just put description of the product here. And let me just use status as width, depth. So I'm putting complex binding. If you remember, I've showed you complex binding. How does it work in SAP Fiori? So in past chapters, we have already discussed all these things in detail, one by one, without copy pasting the code. So now you understand all these artifacts and you will be able to work with them. Okay, come back, refresh. Let's select a product. Okay, I think the root is causing the issue. Let's select a product and its information has to come. It's not coming. You see, there's something going wrong. Whenever I select a product, its corresponding information is not available on the right side, which means there is something going wrong in the detail controller in this root matched handler. So let's debug the root match handler. Press F12, go to sources, Control O, open the detail controller, search for the root match handler and select a product. It should trigger the root match handler of the detail view. It's not triggering. See guys, it is not triggering. Whenever I select a product, it is actually not triggering the root match handler in the detail controller. There is something going wrong. So first of all, I think the selection for the list, first screen list is not done. So we have to change the selection mode for this list control so that it can start selecting the products. So let's go to the master view, find the list control. Here it is, and then we have the mode here, list mode. Let me just change this list mode to single select master. And whenever selection happens, so that's the event called selection change. This is the event. On select, what should happen? Let's go to the controller. This is what is happening on selection. We're getting the list control and we're calling the show the detail view. On show detail view, we are just navigating to detail from main and also passing the binding path of the selected item we are passing. Yeah, save this. I think this should work fine. Let's come back quickly, refresh. Okay, there's something wrong now. Press F12, go to console. Single select master is not a valid entry for the mode. So what is the correct mode available? Let me check. So this is what is not correct. I think single select master S has to be capital. That's what was the issue. Yes, it was the issue. S has to be capital. Now select an item and okay, it's navigating, but the problem is still we are facing the issue with respect to binding of the detail view. Let me check that. I come here, do a selection. You see it is hitting the root match handler for the first time. And then when initial load is finished, then it is calling this root path. Let me just check if this is triggered. No. So this binding is not taking place, guys. Because of that, it's causing an issue. So this is called promise in JavaScript. A promise gets executed when some asynchronous call gets over. So all the calls are asynchronous. So you want to do some activity after another activity gets over. So this is called promise in JavaScript. So right now, I think this is inside a promise and this promise is not fulfilled. That's why the binding is not taking place. So let me move this complete code of binding the detail view into outside. Okay, so I'll do that. So I go back and go to detail controller. Let me copy this or cut indeed. We don't need this code and simply paste the code here. So here is, I think the binding will take place now. Save it, come back and refresh the page. I select an item, It has come here. Now I think it will go and try to do the binding. Let's check the entity path. Entity path is undefined. Oops. Entity path is undefined. So the arguments entity path is not coming. So there's an entity which we will be sending from here. So here you see I'm sending the entity in show detail API. So we should be able to send this properly. Let me just do that here. And let me try one more time. So this is all our code, what we have already learned in the course, guys. There's nothing special which I'm doing here. All the learning which we did in the past, I'm just accordingly making a change. Still it's not working. Press F12. So I have to debug source, master controller, and then check here on select. So show details. Here it should come. So let's see the item and check if it is giving me the binding context path. Yes, it is giving. You can see the path is coming here for the binded information. And that's what I'm sending to entity to the detail view. Then how come it's not received by the detail view? It should have been received by the detail view by now. Okay, let me also check when are we calling the root attach root match handler. Every time it navigates, we are calling it. Okay, one more thing I would do is I would just quickly go back and in my router, I would also include for this pattern slash entity. Okay, this property was missing earlier, so I will include this property over here as per my router. So you see I'm passing it over here from the master. Okay, and also I'm commenting out this remove selections so that the selected item remains selected on the master screen. Right now the selection is getting removed immediately after it is getting selected. So let's come back and try one more time, refresh. I select an item, you see now it remains selected, but it's not navigating to anywhere. I think now there's a problem. Invalid this for segment entity. So slash product set, this thing is invalid value when we are passing it from the master. So here in this entity, if we are passing directly the path, it's not accepting the path actually. We have to just pass the product ID. I think then only it would accept it. So let me try to pass product ID directly. So maybe o item dot get model dot get property and get property based on path and say product ID. I think that should do the magic. Let me try testing my code in the console. Yes, so only product ID now I'm passing. And I would have to construct this path over there in the detail view while binding. So let me come to the detail controller and build this path over here before binding. Save it. Let's come back, refresh. It's not still showing. We see now detail slash your product ID is coming on the top, guys, in the root, according to the root match handler concept. But still it's not showing the data on the right. There is some catch now. I think the binding is also proper. Then there is some catch. So bind view, I think now it's going the path in the bind view method. And this is defined over here. Get data for entity path it is doing. So there is some problem now in the bind view method of our OData, of our detail view. Let's check that. Let's trigger one more time another product. You see it comes here to bind view method. Yeah, it's doing the binding, get model, get data. Is this a problem with OData model? It's giving me the data also correctly. It's giving the data, guys. So fire detail change. It's triggering an event. The detail has changed. But still it is not showing me the data on the top. I think because of our binding path now. So here is our binding path for the product information, and I think I'm putting a slash, which is causing the problem. Yes, finally you see the data is populated for the given product. So I think it was a problem with putting an extra slash before doing this binding, because it's a binding with a particular product which was selected by user. That was the problem. Let me also come down and put some more properties from my OData service. So let me call my OData service here once again in backend and check more properties for the product. So I will use supplier name. Maybe the OData service name is different. No ABAP. Press enter. And you see here all the properties. So I would probably also use supplier ID and supplier name property to display this information in my form, which is there at the bottom. So supplier ID, bind with supplier ID, supplier name. So hope you all know the element binding concept by now, so that you can do these things yourself. So I save this. Now you see binding is done. And the moment you refresh and now select a product, you will see, guys, all the details of that particular product will be displayed on the right side. And you can see here is your supplier name and supplier ID is being displayed. And whichever product I'm selecting, it's actually displaying me the details of that product on the right side. Yeah, you see the dimensions are also coming. The description of the product is coming. All the information is being displayed over here on the right. So that's it for today's class. In the next class, I will show you creating a new product from Fiori UI. So I will be having a plus button created here. On click of plus, a new screen should come. Then user will enter data for the product. Click on save button, and then it should create a post request to the backend, and the product will be created in the system. So that we will see in the next class. We will also see how to call the um, function import method in the backend. Remember, once again, never copy paste the code. Write every single line of code as much as you can, and you need to know all the concepts like views, controllers, MVC architecture, all the type of models, fragments, formatters, binding types, binding modes, component.js, router, root match handler, manifest.json, custom controls, doing the aggregations, creating the binding, binding different variety of controls with the UI controls. All these things you should know. Object header, icon tab filter, list control, paging concept, search fields, master details, object list goes on and on and on. All of this we have learned in our course. Once you know all these things, you are now ready to work with us with a Fiori app generated by Fiori template. If you don't know all these concepts, you can somehow manage to get an output, but that won't give you a feel of working with Fiori completely as an expert. Okay. If you want to achieve expertise, you really got to get into the code and understand these things. You see, I was able to produce the desired outcome. I was able to remove an additional screen which was coming on the section. I was able to read in the selections. I was able to load the data corresponding to the selected item on the right side. I was able to change the router. I was able to work with route match handler. Because all these concepts I know from the depth. I have tried these concepts step by step without copy paste. Okay. So with that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow. We will discuss about manifest.json. We will also talk about creating a post request from the front end to the back end. Thank you so much. Have a nice day and goodbye. Yeah, Chandra, you have any
Hello.
questions? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, Anubhav. Anubhav, I was again going through that binding concept. Actually, one small catch in terms of this property and element binding, basically identifying when this element binding is happening. Now, here you showed in this example, this you said it is an element binding we are doing.
Correct.
That wasn't a binding that we were doing with the properties of that.
It is element binding. So if I just show you the code which WebIDE has generated, what happens is whenever you come to the detail controller, you see there's a bind view thing, and inside this it will just say bind element. See, to the current view object, it is doing the binding of the element. An element is something which is one out of multiple. So you see what we are doing here, there are multiple products and we are selecting one product. So the product which you select, that is your element. And how do you recognize it? Is through this product ID. So that's the product ID I'm propagating to the detail view. In the detail view, it is using the product ID and building the path of the model where the data resides. So path is what you use to define the position or the location of the data, right? You all know about the path. I've already explained in the past chapter. So with that path, you do the binding, element binding. And somebody was also asking me uses of total number of products. So if I want to display here total number of products which are loaded, I think that's pretty much simple.
Yeah.
So what I can do is I can come to master view and where I have the title for my detail view. So you see here the master title. Yeah. So I have it defined in I18N. So let me go to I18N. So here, let's see, here it is. So I just put curly braces and 0. What happens? System automatically calls dollar count. It calls the dollar count property of your raw data for products entity set, and it brings you the count of records available in this database for the products entity set, and it populates the count over there. So I have put this. Yeah. Let me show you now. Refresh here. Okay. Of course, it's navigating to detail view because the path was detail. Okay, right now it's not showing. There's some problem, I guess. Ideally, it should have shown. Okay, let me just also try press F12, right click here and say empty cache and hard reload. Sometimes there is an issue with cache, so you got to empty the cache of Fiori app and do a hard reload. So cache gets clear and it reloads your app completely. Okay, still the count is not coming. There is some problem, I guess. Maybe I have to cross check that again. So it should automatically display you the count over there by putting this parenthesis 0. Total number of products will be displayed over
We
there.
don't,
Sorry?
we don't have to write a code for Anubhav.
Sorry?
We don't have to write code in some controller to pull in that count and display over here.
I think I need to check that.
Because we have just
This is actually a placeholder. Okay, this is actually a placeholder, just like you do in SAP message class, right? So you say PO M%1 is created by user M%2, right? So what is this? These are placeholders. Yeah. So you have to fill this placeholder. Similarly, this is a placeholder. You have to call the dollar count, get the total number of counts of products, and fill this placeholder during runtime. And then it will be displayed accordingly. So that's what I will do it in the next class and show you how to use it. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll see that.
And here we saw this event bus concept, Anubhav.
It's router.
Is that
Here,
concept still used? Like,
yes, it is used in 1.28. So if I show you one place in the detail controller, I saw it just now. Somewhere they are publishing the event. So you see fire detail not found. Yeah, this is the event bus concept. So fire detail not found. Here is the event. So you see this dot event bus dot publish. They're publishing an event, and this event would have been defined somewhere. So let me see. So publish detail not found event.
so what is that actually like? Is it that route match handler concept?
No, this is not
Anubhav?
route match handler concept. This is a different concept called event bus, in which it's like uh, this is called observer pattern. What is an observer design pattern? In which there is an event handler which is continuously observing is there any event. The moment event triggers, that method gets executed. Okay. So you see we are publishing an event not found event, and it would have been defined somewhere here. So you see this is also an event. Subscribe to this event, load finished. Whenever master to load is finished, this method will trigger. So this is the event bus concept. It's been obsolete now. If you see some apps which are already created with old version, you will see this concept. But every navigation now is being done with the help of router. You don't need to use event bus anymore. So this is purely for navigation
And
purpose.
one last question.
Yes.
One last, Anubhav. For when we see that the data is coming in one view, like if we load an application and we want the same data to be available in multiple views to be consumed. So
Correct.
you said like we can make it define it on an application level, the model
Correct.
on an application level.
Correct.
So
Correct.
is that recommended?
Yes, it is. It is indeed. So what you do is you define a global JSON model and that you consume it all the places. So that's what you see SAP is also doing. You see they've created a device model. It's a JSON model they've created. See, it's a JSON model which is named as a device model. Actually, it's just the name device model, and they've registered as a name called device. Okay. Now this device model is used everywhere. So if I just come and show you the view, you will see multiple places they are using device arrow. You see, device arrow. If you go to some other views, you will see here also they are using see device arrow. So the same JSON model is used across all the views and controllers wherever we want the same data to be shared. Yeah. So just for information, the device model is used to identify which device are we running this Fiori app. Is this run on tablet, mobile, or desktop? Is this run on an OS, which is Windows OS or Android OS or iPhone? Or what type of browser is used? Chrome browser, IE browser, Safari, which browser is used? So all that information is ready-made, readily available. Into the system. Now you see these days touch laptops are also coming. So this also will tell the Fiori app device model will tell Fiori app is the touch supported in this app. So based on that, they are actually making things enable, disable, or making things big or small accordingly. So that's a ready-made concept called device model in Fiori. So if you have to sometime, in future, have to do some coding which should only run, specifically for mobile, and another piece of code should run naturally, then you can use this device model, which is available readily as a global JSON data model in the in the Fiori apps generated by template. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
So,
you
but
for
again, concept, guys, you need to know concepts, which I have already taught you every single concept. If you try to directly start with WebIDE, that's the problem. People directly start with WebIDE and they say, Anubhav, I want to develop a custom Fiori app right away. How will you do it? Tell me. Without knowing these concepts, is it possible? Tell me, is it possible without knowing each of the concepts which I taught you in the classes to develop a custom Fiori app as per standard? Not possible. You can do copy paste and get the output, but that will not give you confidence. That won't make you expert in your company. Yeah. So now you know the meaning of this line because you know what is I-18N, you know what is the meaning of arrow because it's a named model. Or named model, whenever you're doing binding, you have to put name of the model and then arrow symbol. So you can easily go and identify. You can easily know which view is navigating, how it is navigating, because you know there will be a router configuration which is responsible for end-to-end navigation. Yeah. So that's why you will know now things, what does these things are doing, because you have written these things on your own, every single line of your own in the system. You know what is component.js. You know what is namespace. Yeah. So all these things you already know. That's why. That's the main thing. That's what I wanted to. Can anybody tell me the meaning of the line sap.ui.ui component? Apply this. There is a line for that. So let me just show you that line. Apply this. Yeah, this is the line. What is this line doing? Anybody? Do you know the meaning of this line? Anybody? I have taught you about it. Every single line of code. I have never copy pasted the code. I've taught you the meaning of every single line of code. What is this line doing? Anybody? Those who have gone through component.js class. Correct. It's calling base class constructor. That's what this line is doing. Thank you for that answer. So that's what happens, guys. You need to know every single line of code. So you know what is going wrong in your code. What if you get a production project already which is in maintenance and you've been asked to do bug fixes? Where will and how will you do? If you don't know the meaning of every line, you may disturb your code. That's why, yet again, never copy paste the code. Understand every single line so that you can work out it smoothly. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day and goodbye.